We begin with breaking news on the cost of living crisis. Well, in terms of how much we're all earning and whether or not that is keeping up with inflation. Real terms wages have fallen by more than 4% in the year to June, the biggest slump since records began in 2001. The Chancellor Nadhim Zahawi is, however, looking on the bright side, saying the jobs market is in a strong position with unemployment lower than at almost any point in the past 40 years. Well, let's bring in our business correspondent, Helen Ann Smith, who's at a Royal Mail sorting centre in East London this morning. And I suppose, Helen Ann, the Chancellor, whilst technically right, doesn't exactly tell the whole story there.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's worth saying, actually, although employment is at very, very low levels, for the first time in 2 years, the number of vacancies in the economy actually dropped. And that's sort of a little nerve-wracking going forward in terms of whether those high levels of employment sustain. But look, as you said, the figure that we really tend to concentrate on, we certainly have in recent months, within this data about employment and the workforce more generally, is about wages. And how are wages behaving in relation to inflation? Essentially, is the amount of money that people are getting paid keeping up with the cost of living, which of course is very, very high at the moment. And the short answer to that is, at the moment, well, not really. Inflation, real wages, that's once you count for inflation, fell by 4.1% in the 3 months to June. A very, very big fall. Worth saying that's compared to a particular measure of inflation that really takes a look at the day-to-day cost of living, something called the CPI. But you might wonder why I'm in a Royal Mail sorting office. Well, come and have a look around. This is where a big site in London, if you live anywhere in London, in the centre or the north, your mail is likely to have come through here. The postmen and women starting to get their sort of sacks sorted, starting to get their kind of deliveries ready. They will start heading out very shortly. All of this mail will have been through electric processors first to order it by postcode. And have a look at this. This is fascinating in terms of how it works. Did you know that every single address in the whole country has got its own little slot in a slot just like this? House, every single flat has got its own little slot, and the workers up putting those letters into those slots ready to take them out. But it's important to say that letters are increasingly a smaller part of the business here at Royal Mail, replaced largely by parcels. It's a much, much bigger business, parcels, and there's a whole separate parcel section downstairs here. But that matters, they say, because they say they need to adapt the business. But the workers here are saying that their wages are not keeping up with inflation. They have balloted to strike here at Royal Mail, and there's a lot of difficult ongoing negotiations about that, with Royal Mail saying they need to modernise, the workers saying their wages need to keep up with inflation. Important to say, they are not the only workers in the country. Nurses, teachers, railway workers, underground workers, all these different unions pushing, at least discussing whether strikes are on the table, because, as those figures have shown, wages really not keeping up with the cost of living at the moment.